Washington, D.C. radio host Don Geronimo was fired after calling WUCA TV anchor Charlotte McBride Barbie Girl and making other demeaning remarks about her. During a broadcast from the Washington Commanders training camp last week, and by the way, this is a classic rock radio station, so he does a morning show on this classic rock radio station, but they are also the home of the Washington Commanders. So he was there for training camp, as our sister station WIP is here for the Eagles. During the broadcast from Washington Commanders training camp last week, Geronimo called McBride a chick and made remarks about her appearance to his co-host Crash Young.
Crash Young.
God, I just hate radio and the dumb names.
Yeah.
This is Don Geronimo, Crash Young here.
Hey, my name is Nick Ryan.
This is local because Don Geronimo used to be on a show called Don and Mike, which was heard here locally on WYSP when it was 94.1, when it was a rock station back in the early 2000s. So this is the conversation that he had with his co-host. I want to get your opinion on that. And then a CNN sports anchor discussed this as well. I want to get your opinions on that. So this is the first audio. Cut 4 here, Daniel.
Hi, Barbie girl. Hi there. I'm guessing she's a cheerleader. There's that chick that you thought said tight.
Yeah, I screamed tight when she was
I think she's a sportscaster at Channel 9.
Yeah.
Or Channel 7.
Yeah, she's familiar.
I thought she was a cheerleader.
That got him fired?
Yep.
Jeez,
I'm going to stay out of commenting on this because of what my job is, but I'm curious to hear.
That's not a fireable offense.
Both
in my
your
opinion.
and Mary's take on this.
And I've used the word chick in a variety of instances. Oh man, that's a gorgeous chick over there. I mean, does that bother people?
Oh boy, Mary.
So a lot of it, what men don't understand is the way in which you say something. And every woman, I think, if you're out in the workplace, you work with guys who can say stuff and you know that it's a joke and you know they don't mean it derogatorily. They're not being creepy about it.
Yeah.
I used to work with a guy who it was just creepy in the way he said things, and I think he was totally harmless, but he was just socially inept.
Yeah.
And shockingly worked in radio.
Well, yeah, I know. How about that? The people that work in radio have no social skills.
It's so true.
They're the worst communicators in the
worst
world, and we're in the communication industry.
It's true. It's
Staggering
true.
concept.
Right. And he could look at you and go, "Oh, you look really pretty today." And I'd have to go home and take a shower. But somebody else could say, "Wow, I really like the dress. You look really nice today." And it would be, I'm like, "Oh, thank you very much."
Yeah.
So it depends on the way in which it is said. In that context, on the outside looking in, I don't think it was creepy. But I think as a general rule, guys, don't comment on a woman's look on the air. Yeah. There you go.
Well,
it's simple to stay out of trouble that way.
Let me just say this: he's from the old school, and I'm not excusing it, but he's from the old school shock radio. You know, it was. If you remember that lineup, it was Howard Stern, Don and Mike, and Opie and Anthony. Like that was the lineup for what they called hot talk or shock radio.
Right.
So like he's from that world. So he's an older guy who probably thinks it's 1998 again. You know what I mean?
And so what is the tie-in here with the Washington Commanders?
Well,
was the organization ticked off?
Yes, because I guess this reporter, and by the way, she considers herself a serious journalist, and she doesn't, that was her excuse on this, and not excuse, but that was her explanation on this, and the Washington Commanders, she complained to them, and they took action.
This is also a franchise that got rid of the nickname the Redskins for the Commanders because they're afraid of their own shadow.
And they've also had a history of
sexual harassment.
Yes.
Because Dan Snyder allowed that to cultivate in his workplace.
Yes.
Which I'm totally against. I'm just not one of these, hey, let's fire somebody because he said that. But I'm with Mary on the standpoint of, guys, just don't ever say a word to a female about the way she looks in the workplace. Whether it could be from the bottom of your heart and you can mean nothing by it. But if that person's bothered by it, you're the one to go.
Sharon on the YouTube chat, by the way, we're 20 likes away from 200. So if you're watching right now, please hit the like button. Sharon on the YouTube chat says, I feel so sorry for guys. It's like they can't say anything.
Yeah.
Well, that's the cancel culture. That's the cancel culture world we live in now. You're not
But
allowed to
that
talk.
being said, it's an overcorrection. Were either one of you ever asked why you should by a PD why you should be fired because you're just going to leave and have babies?
What?
Happened to me. Why should I hire you? You're married. You're just going to have kids and leave. Why should I put time into you?
Oh, hopefully that PD doesn't still work because that is
No, he
that
doesn't,
is-
but he didn't lose his job for it because I was young and naive and stood there and didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
that is an abysmal.
And that's one of the
abysmal thing to
tamer
say.
comments. I could tell you stories that you would be appalled at, but when you're a woman working in a male dominated industry as radio is, as sports is, as media is, you learn to shut up and take a lot of it knowing full well that it's not the right thing to do. And then so I think there's an overcorrection because of that, and in this case I think it was kind of an overcorrection. If I were her, I would not have complained. I just wouldn't have. It just would have been like, she got attention, she got publicity.
Yeah.
She's probably hoping to get a couple million out of it. It's not the way to go.
Yeah.
Nick, are you familiar with CNN sports anchor Rachel Nichols?
Oh, yes, Rachel.
She was on CNN discussing this, and she just laid into Don Geronimo.
She used to work at ESPN.
That's what I figured. This is cut 5.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was really bummed, man, to hear it. Aren't we past this? Aren't we done with this? Of course we're not, and that's always so disappointing. And you heard the way he talked about her, right? This wasn't just some offhanded comment. This was very extensively demeaning her, talking about how she looked, that she's tight, that she's a chick. I thought she was a cheerleader. This is a working journalist. This is a person who came to work that day, and this is what happened to her. And it's just so frustrating when you hear this kind of stuff because we ask women in TV, all of us, and specifically in sports TV, look attractive, right? You tell people you want to be TV ready, you want to be presentable, and then you criticize her for looking attractive. That is a tough position to put a woman in. And the irony is that the Barbie movie that you referred to addresses this, right? There's this great moment in the Barbie movie where America Ferrera is saying that women are supposed to look like this, but then are criticized if they do look like that. That is exactly what happened here. And it's just frustrating if you are working hard to have respectability, to show that you know your stuff, to have someone who's a voice of the team, and that's what he was. He was a team broadcaster, say these things about you, and then you were expected to be in on the joke, which is also really frustrating because then you have to be a partner to someone demeaning you, and that's worse. So I'm really happy to see that everybody involved saw this for what it was.
You know, you would see this with Rachel Nichols and realize, well, okay, that's kind of what I would expect from somebody that's on CNN. But if you know the backstory to Rachel Nichols, she got passed over at ESPN for Maria Taylor for a job and was recorded, and there was audio of her complaining about it. Basically, and I'm going to just paraphrasing, that she thought that she got passed over by Maria Taylor, who was less experienced and younger, because she was African American, and that worked against Rachel Nichols. So in some regards, Rachel Nichols was kind of quasi canceled by ESPN. And many people at ESPN that are former NBA players as analysts that are black actually had Rachel Nichols back. And ESPN was like, wait, no, you're supposed to be offended by that. And you got to Google or DuckDuckGo the whole story. But I'm a little surprised that Rachel Nichols, who's in some regards kind of a cancel culture victim herself, had that stance. But then again, it's a female defending a female, so I got it.
See, I don't understand the female defending a female thing.
I
get it.
expect her to defend her there because
No.
Rachel doesn't want to be viewed as a piece of meat. I just don't think that Don Geronimo's comments were that. If I have to think about his entire career, and I never really consumed much of him to begin with, I got to imagine he said 1,000 things worse than what he said in that clip.
It was different time though, dude. Like you know what you can say in 2002.
But is this a
2003,
station
you
that
can't
allows
say
free
now.
speech that he's on?
Obviously, no. Look. They're iHeartMedia owns them.
Oh, okay.
And it's a classic rock radio station.
Okay, so it's music. It's not talk.
It's not. It's music. It's not talk. I mean, he does a talk morning show and he plays music. But he's from that. I'm just trying to explain.
Yeah, no, look, I just live in a world where I don't allow words to really bother me. There are very few things that offend me. And as somebody who's a believer in free speech and anti-cancel culture, I think I've heard far worse comments. Now, look, they fired him. It's his fault. I mean, he should realize that and you got to be aware of where you work. Some places have more tolerance for that.
Yeah.
Like we can get away with more on 1210 than you can if you're on 94.1, right?
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Absolutely.
You got to know your venue.
And she works for a competing station, correct?
She works for she works for a TV station.
Yeah,
Okay.
so she's a sideline reporter, is what I gather.
I'm not sure.
Because you said she's a journalist in sports.
WUSA TV.
WUSA.
In,
I don't
Channel
know.
9, I want to say.
Is
in
it?
DC.
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if they're a TV affiliate as well for the Commanders. Which in that case, then it's
They
like
may-
now you ticked off your radio and your TV partner.
Well, what initially happened with this, by the way, was that this happened last Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
They were supposed to be at training camp on Thursday and Friday. They got him and his co-host there got suspended from not going, like they were banned from training camp.
Yeah.
And then on Friday he
Mm-hmm.
was fired from it. I'm assuming because the Washington Commanders said you need to deal with this.
Yeah.
And iHeart got
Right.
scared and said okay.
Which I understand you have to appease, your partners. What I lose respect for is when a radio host who's paid to be provocative, who's paid to be entertaining and give his opinion, gives his opinion, and the decision makers are not bothered by it. Then they backpedal and cower because, we got inundated with emails and tweets and posts. Like, if it didn't bother you then, should 37 tweets that are offended by people with an egg for an avatar and 9 followers change your view? That is cowardice.
Listen, the best program director I ever worked for would meet with us every now and then, occasionally, maybe 4 times a year, and the meeting was, it's legal, it's not legal, don't get us sued.
Yeah.
That was it.
Exactly.
So you know what to say and what not to say, and you also know where the line is, all right? And that line may very well be, don't comment on somebody else's looks, especially a woman. Just don't do it. I get that it's crazy. I get that you have the right to free speech. I'm not paying the millions of dollars if there's a lawsuit. So don't get us sued.
But then
you go.
Now we get into the argument about free speech. So let's go back to what we're talking about with Jack Smith and Trump. So Trump can say what he wants about the election and it's not a crime. Donald Trump can say the election was flat out stolen from me. That might be true. That might be false. You can have your beliefs, as Tom Cotton has said, but it's Trump's right to say that. So we protect that. But then Don Geronimo gets fired because he called her Barbie.